Welcome back, everyone, to the Hearthstone Global Games, week number 3, day number 2. We just had a very quick series as Spain take down Italy, and now we move on to Turkey versus the United States. But before we do get into the next game, I thought I would address the elephant in the room. No, not you, Neil. Don't worry. There is, of course, a live stream going on at the moment. It is the Hearthstone. There are some new cards. But we thought we would also give you a brand new announcement and announce our own cards here on this stream as well. So me and Neil had a competition, as we'd like to show you our personal cards. There we are, Twitch chat. We hope you're happy. You have finally received some cards on this stream. Now you can stop complaining in chat, and you can enjoy some global games instead. I didn't even get to see yours. Huh, that one's interesting. Right, let's jump straight into some action then. Let's see what teams are going to be competing in this next match. Turkey versus United States. It is a big one, Lorinda. We are going to see one of these teams eliminated from the global games.
Turkey, United States basically need no introduction. They're very good. Turkey, Thunder Up and Berserk G were here last year. Fujitora, even though he's not the anchor, is kind of the driving force behind this team, and Woven we don't know as much about. But Fujitora did tweet out yesterday that he's very sorry that the United States are going to be eliminated this week.
Oh wow, so a little bit of a shade thrown on Twitter then. On the other side for the United States, of course, some incredible players on that side as well, as we look at the incredible scenes of the United States. Very beautiful country with various different states that some states aren't beautiful. I'm going to point that out in the United States. However, usually the good ones are, like the East Coast and the West Coast. Very nice place.
So you don't like the middle then?
It's kind of, you get this really beautiful side of the country.
You're digging here.
And then everything in the middle, like Ohio. Who wants to go to Ohio? No one.
No, not really.
No, like, it's just not that pleasant. But Los Angeles, beautiful. New York,
the whole of Cleveland
amazing.
just went to watch the card reveal stream.
This is true. See you later. Let's have a look at the bans then and see what is going to be chosen from both of these sides. Warlock is taken away from the United States, ooh, and Druid is taken away from Turkey. You give me an ooh.
We don't see many Warlocks banned. It's one of those classes that's a little bit awkward to deal with, but it's not a disaster. However, it does make sense with so much control in the format that you would, because there's Malygos Druid here and Shadowwalk Shaman, so it makes some sense if you think you're second-guessing them. And Turkey did want to play that Shadowwalk. They first picked it as soon as they got the chance. Yeah,
it also depends what the tech decisions as well are in the Warlock. I think it was the even lock for the United States. And just going back to my previous point, I didn't actually mention any of the United States players when I went off on a little rant about the United States. It's because by the way, I was born in the middle of the United States. That's why I joke. Muzzy is on that squad for one, but he wasn't available last week. In their game against the United Kingdom, he was busy. He was traveling to Japan, I believe.
He was.
And the United Kingdom was saying that if the United States don't have Muzzy, maybe they're going to struggle because Muzzy is one of the key players in that team. Did you think it made a difference not having Muzzy? Because there are still such strong players.
I mean, Saiyan is just incredibly powerful, and I feel that losing Muzzy, obviously you're losing potentially, possibly the best player in the world, but I don't think it's that important because the backup is so strong. Let's see how they line up today, however, and whether they've got the better of Turkey or whether they have not.
Terrence M and Thunder are going to be going up against each other first. We're going to have Priest versus Druid, which is a Control Priest versus a Big Druid. And it is a best of 5, so first to 3 will win you the series. And both teams are 0 and 2 in the Swiss. And as we have mentioned before, but if you are a new viewer to the Hearthstone Global Games, if you drop to 0 and 3, you are just out of the competition. And who would have predicted the United States to be eliminated on this day? Certainly not Sottle, because he predicted the United States to actually win. So that would be a shame for him.
I think it's his fault. Like,
oh, yeah,
he spent a lot of time saying that Muzzy was a choker, and Muzzy just then started winning a lot. So now Sottle's saying, they're the best players. Now they're losing a lot. So it's all Sottle's fault.
Yeah, you can pretty much live your life by that statement. Terrence M, I mean, I recognise Terrence from basically every DreamHack in America I've ever seen. Like, he seems to be always showing up and always performing well at tournaments like that. And he is also excellent to be on this United States roster.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to cast with him twice at Seat Story. Unlucky for him, because that meant he wasn't in the tournament anymore.
And he was next to you.
And he had to be next to me. That's another pretty downside. But it's so obvious when you're around Terence how good at this game he is. He is a spectacular player, and that's why he got all that DreamHack fame.
Yeah.
Particularly strong understanding of Last Hero Standing, but all-around great player. And his streams are also really good, very chilled streams. And Terence is... It's weird that Terence is the person you don't think of as being a great player on a team. If he's on any other team, he would be the guy that everyone was talking about. Because he's with Muzzy and Saiyan and Frozen, he sort of almost, I don't know, just looks like the weaker player, but he's in no way a bad player. He is a terrific player.
Just to correct myself from earlier, I did say it was a big druid. That was just a mistake in my notes. It's in fact the Malygos druid, as you can see on your screens, with Malfurion being available for the United States. So arguably one of the best decks around right now. As you mentioned before, Neil, you think that this is possibly the strongest deck in any meta and in any kind of tournament format. And you can see Tyrantus as one of the inclusions. This I highlight that because Tyrantus isn't in every Malygos deck. Typically, it's used for the mirror because it's very difficult to remove. And I imagine, quite similarly, it could be difficult to remove for this priest.
Seems difficult. You shuffle it away, it comes back.
Yep.
One of the reasons I think Tyrantus really took off in this deck is people started blowing your weapon up. So originally Alex Straza was added as an extra win condition, and then when people started killing the twig over and over again as a relentless issue, then people started putting Tyrantus into the deck just to have that even more win conditions. It only costs you 1 card, and the decks that tend to blow up the twig, like Warrior for instance, just can't deal with a 12-12 with targeted removal. And if you haven't got a very wide board, you can't deal with the AoE either, really.
And there is weapon removal for the priest available for Turkey as well. There is an acidic swamp who's in the deck somewhere, just waiting and lurking to snap that twig in half. So United States will be hoping that they can either A, draw it early and be able to play it out and hope there isn't removal, or just have to go down a different game plan. Like you said, sometimes just getting Malygos on the board and hoping it's not removed can just win you the game.
For me, and Twitch are going to hate this, I think this is the hardest to play deck ever.
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 I mean, forget Twitch chat, I just hate you for saying it.
Why?
I just hate you.
Okay,
No,
so
I'm joking.
just looking for another reason to jump in there.
Okay, so why do you think it's the hardest deck to play? What is it about this deck that you think is so difficult?
So on the surface, you just go ramp up, play some stuff, kill you with Malygos.
Right.
And sure, that's really good and really easy. Anyone can do that. Even I can do that. However, when you have the games where it doesn't all go according to plan, there are so many intricate ways you can find ways to win. Like drop the Malygos particularly early, or Alex Straza and just say, can you deal with it? You need to be able to hand read your opponent. You need to be able to capitalize on chances. And you always need to know if you're winning or not, which is very easy for us to see because we can see both hands. But if you can't see both hands, you need to know when to take a risk and when not to.
Risks are very important in Hearthstone, aren't they, Lavender?
Yeah, they are.
We had a good old hour conversation about this yesterday.
Over a complete misunderstanding. It was a spectacular waste of time. But yeah, finding those extra ways to stick a minion that can get the damage in. You have got Lich King, Alex Straza, Tyrantus, Malfurion's a lot of damage, even though he's not a minion. He still sort of gets in there and does a load. So knowing when to just stick with the same game plan as normal, the straight up play Malygos, kill you game plan, and knowing when that's going to go wrong are really important. That means you need to know every matchup and every situation in every matchup either incredibly well, or you need to be able to adjust incredibly well to what you're faced with. And for me, that makes it very difficult to be beyond mediocre at the deck.
Yeah, I would have to agree that I believe it is a difficult deck to play. Whether I believe it's the most difficult ever is a very bold statement, especially when we had things like Patron Warrior.
It's whirlwind and hit them with a load of patrons.
Yeah, and we had things like Fatigue Warrior, which is also pretty difficult.
Tank up.
Secret Paladin, Aggro Shaman,
Undertaker Hunter.
Face Hunter.
Yeah, all those really renowned hard decks to play. Shaman, Ever. But I don't think I'm even... I mean, there's somebody will have already tweeted me saying, no, but what about silly deck?
But that's the beauty of Hearthstone, right? We have so many decks that can be quite difficult to play, but do work out as just being absolutely phenomenal ones as well. As meanwhile, Malfurion does come down on 7, opting for the Spooders rather than the Scarabs, and not playing the Twig. Naturally, if you do think this deck is easy, you probably just think, oh, well, I'm just going to get the Twig out nice and early. But Terence recognizing that there is weapon removal, and maybe the Twig isn't the right play at the moment.
Spooders forcing out the Mass Dispel there, which isn't a massive deal, but of course nothing else seemed to be working at the time. The other Dustbreaker wasn't there. Getting some use out of those in theory slows his opponent down though. Like that 4 mana was the entire turn. So Mass Dispel turn back to you, and now as this mana ramps up so rapidly, wasting your opponent's time is a good thing.
I mean, we were saying earlier, how do you deal with a Tyrantus? I mean, I guess those Twilight Acolytes that are available for Turkey. I mean, you could eventually just swap and get a 12 attack Twilight Acolyte.
Yeah, that's something that United States have to be very careful of. Something else they have to be very careful of here is their hand size. They want to empty this lot out as quickly as they possibly can as they try and burn some key cards here. They're trying to clear the board, but as a side effect, they might burn some key cards, or at least force the hand size to get ridiculous.
And the reason why they are trying to empty their hand out, of course, is the ultimate infestation in their own hand that they want to be able to try and play next turn. Unfortunately, I don't think they quite can unless they are hoping that they draw an Arcane Tyrant, for example, which would then help out.
In fact, it was actually the worst case scenario that I didn't burn any cards, because I can't count up to 10. But now they have cleared their way for all of the shenanigans to start occurring. Yeah, playing the Twig is something that's going to be awkward because they're expecting it to get blown up. Yeah. But the later you play it, the more likely it is to get blown up, of course.
And I think next turn is entirely a possibility. It's going to be down to Tyrantus or just playing the kind of safe game, well, not safe game, sorry, slow game of the Twig. And what do you feel is a better play? Because you can't play Ultimate Infestation next turn unless you're okay with burning a card.
I think this has helped a little bit now they can Spreading Plague. The Priest doesn't go particularly wide, so a Spreading Plague and maybe a Twig, empty some space out if nothing good comes off the top. You know there's a dragon in hand because the Dustbreaker just did the animation. So you can assume that Twilight Acolyte is around and active.
And I do like getting the Twig on board. I like starting to charge with it, and I think you take the opportunity to get that extra 10 mana if you are presented with it. You don't want to be waiting for the Malygos, you don't want to be waiting for your spells and giving your opponent the opportunity to get a Acidic Swamp Ooze. So instead, if you get the chance to actually just make a really impactful turn with 20 mana, you take it.
20 mana is a lot of mana. Imagine if the crystals just built up to 20 over time. Druid have like 17 mana versus 4.
Yeah, sounds like something that probably will come out in the Boomsday project.
With just more mana crystals, like a second row underneath where it says 10/10?
Yeah. It's a 1 mana card. Give yourself 20 potential mana crystals.
That'd be fun.
No, it wouldn't. Totally. I mean, you were definitely lying then when you looked in my eyes when you said that would be fun.
Don't judge my eyes.
I could look beyond into your soul, Neil.
Don't tangle.
Exactly.
Anyway, the Spreading Plague does occur. And it looks like the Twig as well. Although maybe just, he's going to go for +3 attack, take out this Cleric. That makes more sense. Stop any further card draw. They've already given away a lot of cards, of course.
Yeah, if we're realistic, the Twig isn't going to win this game.
No.
You're only going to be playing it if you're just given 4 free mana. And in that turn, you weren't given 4 free mana because you had to remove the Northshire Cleric.
Obviously, very difficult to use the Ultimate Infestation till your hand is empty until you draw Malygos. You want to use it, sometimes you don't mind burning a random card, but you need it not to be Malygos or Alexstrasza, so got to hang on in there for now. Because those 2 cards, even though the Twig probably won't Twigger in this game, it's most likely that you'll need to win with Alexstrasza and Malygos just as minions.
So now you've distracted me and I'm thinking of Twiglets.
What are they?
Do you not actually know what Twiglets are? They're little like Marmite crisps or chips if you're American that you get at Christmas time.
Okay. Why only at Christmas? Is that like grow on trees?
I don't know why you only get them at Christmas. I think it's
just... they're made of real twigs.
It's like good finger food. No, they're not real twigs. They're like fake twigs that are covered in Marmite.
Why would you want to eat twigs? Are you like a hidden
Because you're an acidic swamp ooze. Or a gluttonous ooze.
Yeah. Don't look at me like that when you say that. All right. That makes a lot of sense, I guess. It makes no sense, but it's a good thing to say when I wasn't listening to you. Terrence trying to dump this hand. Obviously, the Tyrant can be played for 0 if it's played alongside a Spreading Plague.
Or a Starfire.
Or a Starfire, that draws a card.
Yes,
So it doesn't do the job you're trying to. branching paths is not too bad in terms of using the buff to get rid of a couple of these minions. Given that you are probably not using it for card draw in this game.
No.
You might use it for armor though after you get an Alexstrasza in the face.
Yeah, I guess this is one of the benefits of getting Malfurion out on 7, is you can now armor up turn after turn if you are presented with the opportunities to do so, and try and get yourself out of range of any priest shenanigans later on.
And these are the situations where I think this deck's incredibly hard to play. They're gonna go at it!
So we're gonna see 2 cards burnt here, or just the 1 card burnt?
They do get to clear space for next turn at least.
And there's Malygos, not burnt, thankfully. But Lich King is burnt. I'd say that's pretty big. Speaking of pretty big, the Netherlands are 1-0 against Peru.
1-0 up. Netherlands not had the greatest of starts to this event, 1-1. But, you know, that's okay if they can get to 2-1. That's your halfway stage. You're trying to get to 4-2. And Netherlands, I think, were one of the teams that a lot of people, especially around Twitch chat, who... There's Theo, there's Ties, there's Tyler. They'd like to watch those. So a very popular team as well as a very strong one. That turn worked out well for the United States, and that's where having a good team around you is important. It's like, yeah, we're going to burn a card. Do we do it? Can someone quickly give me a maths estimate? Not just, I mean, we can see the numbers, the maths is easy, but can someone give me a feel estimate of, do we do this? And you've got Muzzy, Frozen, and Saiyan backing you up to go with your own gut feeling.
I mean, we've not even spoken about Frozen and what an incredible player he is as well. Like, the man's... he is a genius. I think I spent some time with him in China last year during the Gold Club World Cup.
And he's inventive as well, which I think is important when you're on a team like this. It's no use having 4 players who all think the same way. If you're all thinking slightly differently, you're contributing more to the team, and he definitely thinks differently to most people. He'll be probably the action guy on the team. You're saying, and Muzzy will just do the good things. Terence will be a combination of both, and then Frozen will just be in the background saying the crazy but good plays.
And you do need someone like that. You need someone who can just kind of think outside the box. Even if the plays end up not being right, just putting that thought in some of the players' head. Yeah,
if you can get through a turn in sort of 50 or 60 seconds and then say, hey, other guy, what have you got?
Yep.
And the other guy goes, oh, well, actually, you could do this, this, and this, and floop all these all over the board, and off you go, and you're good.
So now, for the United States, the problem with the discussion we had about just putting Malygos onto the board at some point and hoping it sticks around, it is too risky against a deck that plays Twilight Acolyte and Cabal Shadow Priest.
Sure. If you lose it, you lose. If it gets put back in your deck, that's absolutely fine.
And actually, the only bad case scenario is the Cabal Shadow Priest.
Notice that, so the last turn when they fished for cards, I think they were looking for an answer to Twilight Acolyte, because the Tyrantus have just been hanging around like a smelly dinosaur for some time now. The second they pick up the swipe, plop it onto the board. Have you got the combo? If you have, or the combo being 1 card. If you have, we're just going to swipe it out of existence. If you haven't, we are just going to bosh you.
Interesting. Never heard the term boshing.
No? No. It's an actually legitimate phrase for once in my life.
Well, there is the first Twilight Acolyte, and you're quite right. Terence needs an answer for it, which he does have. But you also do want to save back some of these spells, like Swipe.
I mean, swiping a 12-4 and trading in the Tyrantus does look reasonable here. Don't forget, that's going to linger on the board. And then if they can force a Psychic Scream out, it goes back into the deck. So if this is going to hang around for a while on sort of 6 health total, the Turkeys still actually need to deal with it. Otherwise, it's just going to be there as protection for other minions that may turn up along the way.
I think Terence and the United States will be disappointed about that burn of the Lich King earlier, because in theory, Tyrantus and then the Lich King could absorb those Twilight Acolyte swaps. And then that leaves your Malygos more open to just being dropped onto the board, and you have more free roam for it. Because I'm looking through this Priest list, and I don't see a way that you clear a Malygos without just shuffling it back in. The Master Spell has been used already, and there's only one of them, so that's the only silence that's available. Otherwise, you're looking at maybe like Holy Fire plus pings from the Anduin, perhaps? Yeah.
So, going to be tricky for them. Like you say, he got burned, so... But they knew they were going to burn, a good chance of burning something important there. There were some big boys left, and not that many cards.
As we can see, the Swampoo's now available for Thunder as well, so we are not going to see an OTK turn from the Malygos.
Unless something catastrophic happens. Like Fuji upsets Thunder up and he just doesn't kill it.
Yeah, it would be... he forgets it's in his hand, I guess. And it doesn't really matter when you play this Ooze as well. But potentially you could save it right for the last charge, just to maybe think that you're... to try and convince your opponent you don't have it, so that their game plan extends to the point of, oh, maybe we will get this OTK.
And tempo-wise as well, getting the Ooze down, using your mana, because the Ooze is useless right now, it just gets killed. So waiting until you've got better things to do, like this Tyrantus isn't there just to eat it up. Notice that the United States over the last few turns have been weaving in hero powers. Anytime they can, they're just armoring up, trying to keep out of range of the 1 or 2 turn kill potential from the Priest, all the time whilst trying to dominate the board and do other things. But they're still just set on making these little armor ups as well.
All right, how do or die is this turn now? Are you realistically going to win this game if you wait until you pop this twig? Can you wait 4 more turns to see if there is an Acidic Swampooze? Or do you just go for a Malygos here and say, well, I hope they don't have Psychic Scream, they don't have Cabal Shadow Priest, blah, blah, blah.
You don't mind Psychic Scream too much because you get your Tyrantus back, but you do mind the stealing of the Shadow Priest a lot. I don't think you're in a hurry. I think you can wait a long time. You can Malygos double Moonfire at some point. And notice there, they spent their Wild Growth but didn't cycle, so they're thinking about fatigue. And
they quite rightly should be. This Priest will just run out of things to do on the board, especially when you consider 2 of their minions, the Twilight Acolyte and the Cabal Shadow Priest, is going to have to be saved back for the Malygos. Terrence is just thinking he has enough value in his hand to deal with the minions that will be put onto the board by Turkey, and then his armor will keep him out of range. As the Swampoo's now arrives, so at least
now it challenges Tyrantus.
Now the challenge for United States of how are we going to approach the rest of this game.
Don't forget United States still have Alex Straza remaining. That's their trump card here, if you will. And so how they time that, I mean, they haven't got a choice in how to time it because they haven't got it. But how they time that will be important. And likewise from Turkey, exactly the same deal. If they can get through this armor, that would be a big deal for them. But they're already having to start launching damage because armoring up for 3 a turn is really helping Malfurion.
It is, but it's a shame to use Mind Blast and a ping before Turkey's Alex Straza turn.
Need to do some quick math here as to whether gaining 9 armor from the Ferocious Howl is worth it, depending how deep you think you're going to get into fatigue. Sticks you further in fatigue, but is that worth 9 armor? Depends how far you get into fatigue.
If you consider the fact that Psychic Scream is a key removal card for Turkey and they may have to use it on an Alex Straza, maybe you can take a draw here, because potentially one of those cards is going to get shuffled back in here anyway, and the armor actually is going to be worth it.
Problem being, if you do that, then you've only got 5 mana for the turn you want to have, because you need to dump another card and you really want to either armor up or kill the Swampoo's, depending how you see the beatdown race going every single turn. I'm also interested to see when they use branching paths for attack. At some point they're going to have to get some value out of that branching path. Do you want 12 armor from it? Probably. That seems the most likely way. And they do decide that Ferocious Howl is the best use of this.
Gain some extra mana crystals, I imagine, and now use your hero power and... Oh, I was going to say... There was a thought of the Spellstone onto this Ooze, but they are just going to keep it back as a chance to remove one of the big targets. And there he is, or there she is, one of the big targets for Turkey.
Yep, and this is the United States saying, we are going to fatigue you. when last time they can't even be bothered to hit you in the face for 2 and defend the board, that is just them saying, okay, we think we've got this on fatigue. And I'm just going to trust the United States have countered it better than I have, because skimming your eyes over it doesn't look like they've got them on fatigue.
My thoughts are plain.
Well, they have them on fatigue just purely on the base of if their minions get Psychic Screamed. They are hoping that their Alexstrasza, I think you have to hope it's the Alexstrasza, because you imagine that you can't really play the Malygos at any point because it's just going to be stolen.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you can, but not yet, right?
But you can play, you play the Malygos out on one turn for the double Moonfire damage. That's definitely going to happen. And then if they steal it afterwards, you have the follow-up turn of you've got your Starfire and your Swipe there as well.
I think the Starfire is there for the last turn of the game. Could even result in a draw in that situation.
There is an entirely
Fatigue yourself for a load and kill your opponent.
I mean, we see draws very often with Druid because of cards like this, the Ultimate Infestation, which is now definitely a dead card.
The United States in a bit of a tricky situation here. Yeah, they don't like this, but it's what they've got to do. But they're going to still manage to work in that armor up every turn. But at some point they're going to have to switch to attack. But they need their Alexstrasza. They've dug a little bit deeper than they wanted to, looking for this Alexstrasza. But as soon as it comes, they can start hitting Alexstrasza, Innovate, hit you for 3. Malygos, Moonfire, hit you for more than 3. And this is why Turkey are keeping back the Holy Fires, because they want to do that after they get Alexstrasa'd.
The United States, they're desperately digging for that Alexstrasza as well. They really want to put something on the board that tries to lure out this Cabal Shadow Priest. But little do they know, there isn't a Cabal Shadow Priest in the hand of Turkey at the moment.
Which is insane. They only have 6 cards left. 2 wonderful cards.
How many Psychic Screams do you want?
I mean,
you
don't want to draw
Power
cards
Shield?
and you don't want to Psychic Scream. I like the way they go for this knowing what's left in their deck and then have no idea what to choose.
Yeah.
I think they might have hoped there was, or forgotten maybe they had the other Shadow Visions, because that's the way you can win games with this deck. You just go Shadow Vision, Shadow Vision, Shadow Visions.
They have actually gone for the Power Word Shield as well.
That is a cheap way to finish the game. It's 1 mana, reset your hero power.
Yeah.
I miss Raza.
I do miss Razaka's Priest as well. Well, there's Alexstrasza. That is definitely what the United States have been waiting for. And I would imagine that this is going to be the turn where they just send this 15 damage essentially to face and say, all right, Turkey, what have you got to offer?
I'd play that card. 9 mana, 8/8.
Deal 15
to your
damage.
opponent.
Yep.
Seems good.
And if we see the Twilight Acolyte used here to answer it, then that is just opening up the floodgates for Malygos.
Yeah, and Malygos loves it when the floodgates are open,
Absolutely.
because then the damage floodgates open up. And if Psychic Scream is used, there's a 1 in 3 chance you're getting Alexstrasza back on the board next turn. You just don't get anywhere, to be honest. So now it's shooty time, so this is gain 8 armor.
And also, if Psychic Scream is used and there's no healing up, there is just the damage available for the United States just to win the game. Malygos, double Moonfire, Innovate, Hero Power.
Shadowy thoughts.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah! 15. And they know it. I mean, there's 2 cards left. They basically know the opponent's hand. You just assume they've got every card.
So
Obviously,
with
that's not how numbers work.
knowing that, that means you have to use this Holy Fire just to deal with the Alexstrasza.
Yeah. And it's not looking good for Turkey suddenly.
I'm almost out of cards.
Naturalize is nice. That means they can catch up a little bit later.
United States now just going to take the initiative. They've had their turn. They've seen what Turkey had in terms of removing the Alexstrasza. And actually, the Cabal Shadow Priest isn't there. And even if it was, you've got Starfire, you've got Hero Power available.
Yeah, and this 3 to face that they're going to get here. Notice how they armored up all the way to buy time, but they knew this turn was coming, and now they're setting up just a normal Starfire or a normal Ultimate Infestation for next turn.
No way to steal the Malygos. No way to clear the Malygos with the ability to survive, as far as I can see.
Even if they could steal it, they would be dead.
Exactly.
This is what the United States have been setting up for a long time.
Well,
A long
yeah, they
time.
can't even steal and heal
Shadowy
because it would be
thoughts.
too much mana to play the Divine Hymn. No way for lethal available either. So Power Word Shield is just going to be digging for answers?
They found the answer they're looking for, but they're going to die if they use it, so...
So Psychic Scream plus Divine Hymn takes you up to 11. That just puts you out of range.
I'm almost out of cards.
Hey!
But hey, Malygos is back!
Not as good this time around. It might just be worthwhile starfiring the face. A little bit awkward. But going to push damage to face.
I'm out of cards.
Arcane Tyrant.
Oh, that's nice.
That makes it an easier play, I must admit.
Yep.
And just what do you do here? They've basically checkmated Turkey here from about 10 turns ago. Mate in 10.
Oh, is there another Divine Hymn left for Turkey?
No.
No?
There was only a Psychic Scream and a Powered Shield
there was indeed,
when they did
so
the
yeah.
thing that they do.
So the highest they can get back up is with this Holy Fire, which puts them back up to 8.
When they play a minion, they start taking fatigue damage as well because they get a naturalize happening to them.
And it's been a really well-played game from United States. It looks like they are going to take it. I can't really see a way of getting back into this for Turkey.
Fine on the Ultimate Infestation damage. It's just 4 times 5, whatever that is, 20. Can't use it though, so they're not fine.
So maybe they are just... this could actually end up being a draw. I know we're saying that this is over, but...
It definitely could. But they've got branching paths for a lot of armor if they want to stall out.
This is true. Yeah, I mean, Turkey at the moment, they are just hoping that they can out-fatigue the Druid by not playing any minions.
So the big decision here that always gets tricky in these parts, which is where it's nice to have 4 people, and hopefully no one's talking, is you gain the armor, and then you have to decide, do you want to hit your opponent for 3, or do you want to gain 3? And actually, it sounds easy, but different breakpoints on different fatigue turns make a difference when you're doing that. As you can see, I'm almost certain that's what they're talking about now. Do we hit for 3? Do we gain 3? They know the opponent's hand plus deck. They know roughly what they're up against.
Is there any reason to play Malygos here?
Not yet, I don't think. I think you wait until your opponent has all their cards, and then if they steal it, you then use the Naturalize for even more damage. Plus you get Spreading Plague value. If they steal it, it costs them 2 cards, and then you Spreading Plague, but they're just going to go with the Plague now.
Wow, using their own Plague to naturalize it, to make their opponent draw. I love this play from Terrence.
And I think they probably hit face, but someone will have worked out the numbers better than us.
Yeah, you hit face here. And there's no healing left for Turkey, which means next turn they're taking 2 points of fatigue damage.
Yeah, which means they've got to heal, because otherwise they get hit in the face for 3 again. Primordial Drake, of course, does deal with this, which is a little bit awkward. In fact, it's more than a little bit awkward, it's actually very annoying.
But the branching paths to heal yourself back up, as well as the hero power, they should just win this across 2 turns.
Ultimate Infestation doesn't do it, it's 25 points of fatigue, so they can take a draw if they want it. I don't think they do, I think you just branching paths, but they just need
branching paths for armor, you hero power for armor, and you say, if they don't kill us next turn, then we just win.
Yeah. Again, another member of the team is probably assigned to remembering the entire deck.
And credit to Turkey as well for keeping this so tight.
Yes.
I've kind of counted them out a few times where naturally I would expect this just to go so comfortably for the Malygos Druid into the fatigue game, but Turkey have taken every percentage where they can. And they're trying to count up now of, is there potential for lethal? The answer is no.
When I was saying that Malygos Druid is hard to play, this is why.
Yeah, this was a really difficult game.
Needed to know their win condition, needed to know how the game was going to fit together. I think we've seen that strategy quite a few times now in other matches, but getting the ordering right, that's against Priest. So maybe you know that matchup well, but then you've got to know those matchups against other those moves against other matchups. It's different every time. Plus, each game is different. That's because of how Hearthstone works, how a card game works.
It's about adapting to the scenario that you are put in, right? And for example, the Lich King being burnt, there was a decision for the United States where they said, all right, how are we going to approach, how are we going to win this game? It was all about drawing that Alexstrasza, being patient, encouraging out that bit of removal, and then suddenly you take the Malygos play.
And it worked absolutely perfectly. I mean, in some ways it looked like they didn't have any choice because of Alexstrasza coming so late, but I feel that that's how they were going to play it anyway. It's almost an advantage they didn't get the Alexstrasza when they earlier because it was just sat around for a while. But even how they forced down the Tyrantus was interesting. That's game number 1 out of the way. But game number 2, Dan, what do you think it's going to be like?
Well, we've got Paladin versus the Shaman, and it is a Shudderwock Shaman versus an Odd Paladin. A very interesting matchup, actually, I find, on both sides, because naturally you would think Odd Paladin. I mean, it's a slow deck, the Shudderwock Shaman, so the Odd Paladin could just find the damage, it can burst through, it can overwhelm the Shudderwock. However, Shudderwock Shaman does have Lightning Storms, it does have Volcanoes, it has Healing Rains, it can not only clear a board from Odd Paladin, but it can get itself out of range as well, and it has Taunts.
And this one has Pyromancer, which is one of the huge differences. If you're playing the Keleseth version, sometimes the Paladin can sneakaroo and do a lot of damage, but the Pyromancer just cuts that off at source.
How does one sneakaroo? What is
We'll see it when Shudderwock hasn't got Pyro later in the day.
Okay. Yeah, Pyromancer makes a massive difference, and that's why this variant was probably brought to this format, to be honest, because you know full well there is a chance you could be going up against Odd Paladin. What's the best way to deal with loads of 1/1 tokens? Well, a Pyromancer, probably.
Seems good. Seems like that's what the card was designed to do.
Is it running Earthshock?
Let's have a look.
Well,
you've moved it away from me and made it. Now I've got to lean over awkwardly. And this looks really bad, I'm sure. Earthshock ×2.
Earthshock ×2, as Muzzy has a guest in his room in the... Well, I don't... Are they in the United States? I can't tell.
Hang on, just to go to my architecture degree here.
Are they in Taichung? I know there's a tour stop in Taichung this weekend, and I can't remember if Muzzy was going as well. That looks like a hotel room to me.
That does look like 3 people in a hotel room. And I don't think Muzzy lives in a hotel. Maybe he owns a hotel.
I wouldn't be surprised. The man has won enough in Hearthstone to probably warrant buying his own hotel. But yeah, I think he is in Taichung. Sorry, what's that? Confirmation from production. He is in a hotel in Taichung. Got him.
Got him. And of course, you will have to watch that tour stop very soon indeed.
Yeah, we'll be this weekend on this exact Hearthstone channel, I believe. So that helps as well. Like, I know this is the global games, and of course the teams will be in calls talking, but it's much easier when you are in person.
Yes, very much so.
Are there any rules about who physically has to hold the mouse?
Yes, I believe the person has to be there holding the mouse who is representing.
So Muzzy has to hold the mouse?
Yes.
Oh, so keep an eye on that production. Just make sure we don't see Frozen sneakaroo in. See, using your lingo now. Keeping up with
Why are you happy about using my word?
I don't know why I'm happy with using your anything, to be honest. But yeah, that's going to help them being in the same room.
Right.
So, copy that. Yeah, great. Glad we're on the same wavelength and all of that. Thanks, production. It is going to be better that they're in the same room because communicating over any sort of internet is going to be somewhat slower.
And
if
can be disastrous.
Yeah, it can, because then people talk over each other, whereas when you can actually physically see someone's mouth move.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you just don't talk over them at all.
Yeah, because talking over someone
you just
would be
wouldn't
really
do it
annoying,
at any point.
I'd hate
get
for someone
right
to talk
on
over
your
to me
nerves.
right
It
now
would be
because
terrible.
I would definitely... What?
Did you say something?
No, it's just...
Anyway,
indeed. So, what's your preference in Shudderwock Shaman versus Odd Paladin? Because I know I gave my slight preference of Odd Paladin, but
I think Shudderwock with the Pyromancers dumpstered it quite hard.
Yeah.
It makes it with the Keleseth. I think the Shudderwock's probably still just about able to linger on long enough, but definitely with the Pyromancer swings it massively in favour of the Shudderwock.
I'm just looking at the Paladin list as well. There's a Boisterous Bard in there that's available, so that can sometimes help against the Pyromancer.
Yeah, definitely can.
It can put them out of range of just the one spell being used. No Void Rippers, but I guess...
There's not a lot to rip into. Chain Gang a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, Chain Gang sometimes you can flip out. And Void Ripper also offers that extra burst potential, right? There is that extra surprise lethal possibility. But it does mean there is 2 Stonehill defenders. And I guess that is quite important against the Shudderwock Shaman that is running Pyromancer, because you might be able to get a level up on board. You might be able to get a Tarim from the Stonehill Defender
That helps
as well.
so much when you get that. And of course, they don't have to draw the Pyromancer.
With honor.
And also, just making these minions 3 health makes a Lightning Storm a little bit more risky as well.
It's interesting, you look at any odd deck opening hand, and they aren't the same. They've got very different textures, same with odd rogue, but you look at them, they just look kind of similar. They never have a bad draw, not a particularly one.
That's what happens when you have a fully golden deck, Neil.
Well, you don't get bad draws.
You don't get bad draws, that's how it works.
How many of these 5 drops would you keep, do you think?
I'd keep level up.
Both of them, because
like,
they did.
Yeah, yeah. Now it's done it. Yeah, I'd definitely keep level up in Fungal Mancer. I would have said I would kept level up. Consideration for Fungal Mancer maybe, but the advantage of level up in Fungal Mancer is so large if you get the chance to play them on turn, what could be turn 4, and you really need to take every advantage as possible against this Shudderwalk Shaman. It is great to see that the Shaman has developed to a point where it can take down Odd Paladin, because when it was that Keleseth version, naturally it did struggle against Paladin.
Netherlands 2-0 up now. Desperately trying to get to 2-1 in the tournament. That would be absolutely fantastic for all the many fans of, especially Ties, but also Theo, Tyler, and Mitsuhide out there. All 4 of which have got pretty successful streams.
I'm sure Tyus would work his way to BlizzCon anyway, but it would be nice to see him competing there, I'm sure.
Nothing doing in terms of great removal for Fujitora. Fujitora always looks so smug, and he knows it. He never has an air of a man who thinks he's ever going to lose, even when he's lost.
It's a good attitude to have.
Yeah. And it carried him through WSG, to be honest. He just kept saying he was going to win. He was going to beat Luca, and then he won and beat Luca in the final.
Now, this Lightning Storm is going to be good for Turkey. It is going to really help stop any level up or Fungal Mancer shenanigans happening too soon. But it will be later on. It will be how they answer the level up, and I guess a Volcano is quite possibly the answer to that one as well.
Very little talking going on in the United States team. So it looks like Saiyan is actually the guy assigned to don't make mistakes duty. He's just sitting there listening. I wouldn't mind Saiyan sitting behind me every time I was about to make a mistake, except he'd be talking a lot more if I was, because it'd be every turn.
Saiyan sitting behind you would be pretty super.
Yeah, just about. Fuji going to start drawing some cards. He's in no hurry to use this Lightning Storm. You really want to clear the board going into the level up turn.
Yeah, you want to encourage your opponent to play more Silverhand recruits as well. As Boisterous Bard, yeah, okay, it's good, and it does buff your boys up, but not out of range of a Lightning Storm.
They also know that Fuji's not going to do anything until going into the next turn.
Yep.
And they know it's going into the next turn, so maybe they buff it now in case they're scared of any Pyro shenanigans. What does Pyromancer really have as friends on 2 mana? Like an Earth Shock or something.
Earth Shock, yeah.
So they are defending against that, and that's going to be kind of disappointing for them.
It is, it's going to be punished by the Lightning Storm, but as we always say with Odd Paladin, they can just refill their board relatively comfortably, as Lightning Storm number 2 now is found for Fuji.
He clutches his chest
Yeah,
there.
like
I was a little bit worried about that.
A few heart palpitations.
Yeah.
Because he's like, oh my god, I'm actually finding the cards I need in this series.
Yeah. Frozen just giggling in the background there.
I know we joked earlier as well when we were speaking about Muzzy and how the United States, they missed him last week. But he is probably second to Hunter Ace as the best player.
He's the
now.
only person who people put in the same conversation as Hunter Ace now. I mean, Saiyan should be in that conversation too.
Is he the closest we have to another 1-star master? I think he's either second or third in the runnings.
I think Fino might be actually.
Fino's up there as well, yeah.
It's been a bit hard because until yesterday, players were using their best 3 from 4 results, and so it sort of didn't level out until you knew who had done what at the end of all 4 months. And as it only finished literally, I think 6 hours before we went live, I was busy doing other things, although I did watch the end of that race. And Muzzy's well up there though, and obviously Tempo Storm winning the team standings just from F2K means they've got their points from somewhere. Of course, Fino's got a lot of points and Boar's got a lot of points.
And Muzzy, of course, could have more points. He had a disappointing tournament in Japan, finishing top 16, not even winning a game.
Oh, how dare he only come top 16 out of 500 players?
Well, yeah, I mean, top 16 out of 16 people at that tournament, though, but he had to qualify to get there.
Yeah, he had to go through a monster qualifier to get there.
Had to go through a mountain, and now he has to go through Mount Fuji here to try and get a victory. They were thinking about level up, which is pretty horrid on this turn, but
Well, the Fungalmancer is also horrid. That's another problem they have here.
yeah.
I think they say the level up, but the Fungalmancer, because Fuji rightly throws the middle minion, has been sort of ruined. But yeah, you can't hold back on it. You just got to do what you can, and not messing around taking value trades. It would defend the Fungalmancer, but 4 to the face is so urgently required.
Mana Tide fills out the curve so nicely for Fuji as well if he wants to play this second Lightning Storm. There is still the possibility that one of the minions can survive if he does go for Lightning Storm number 2 without a hero power.
I'm looking at this volcano that he just hovered over. He's got to work out now, because this would be a good volcano. But when level up is played, there might be a better volcano later.
Yeah, I think this Lightning Storm is just too good to pass up. And by playing the Lightning Storm first, if the 4-3 does survive, you had the option to trade into that instead of the Raid Leader.
Yeah.
Even though the Raid Leader is, in some ways, a more significant minion, actually, just Silverhand Recruits can be so valuable for the Paladin that it is worth getting rid of them.
Taunt Maul.
LOL.
So childish, Dan.
Oh, I just hate it. You know,
A professional Hearthstone tournament.
You can see the difference between earlier when we saw a Divine Shield Maul found,
Yeah.
blessed, and I just went, yeah, this deck's amazing. And then we see Taunt Maul.
Yeah, but
It's
that
just
Mana Tide Totem's not going to be hitting him in the face anytime soon, so, you know.
disappointing. I hate Taunt Maul.
It's pretty bad. Nearly. I hate the times you occasionally lose because it just happens to be the right one.
Yeah, there are very minor times.
And that's when they roll it. That's when my opponents get it. It's just that one time you're about to hit him in the face and suddenly they've got this 1-1 army of taunters taunting you because you can't get through them.
Opting to deal 2 damage to this Mana Tide Totem, respecting that they do need to stop the card draw sooner rather than later. But this game is going heavily in the way of the Shutterwalk Shaman at the moment. With both Life Drinkers found, the Sauronite Chain Gang available, Hagatha is there as a potential clear as well. I mean, how many clears are there in the Shutterwalk Shaman? There are 2 Lightning Storms, 2 Volcanoes, and Hagatha.
Yeah.
And
Pyromancers.
they've drawn 4 of those AoE board clears.
And next turn, Fuji's going to get the good news that there is no Vine Cleaver. Vine Cleaver working so well with level up. That's why you try and hold on to your level up. You get Vine Cleaver, you hero power the next turn, you level up, and you get a board of 3/3s. And that's why this Volcano has been saved. And of course, Hagatha, as you just mentioned, another of those board clears. And they have only drawn 12 cards, and like you say, they've drawn a lot of AoE. I was thinking it wasn't that spectacular because Shutterwalk draws so many cards. But they actually haven't drawn that many cards this time.
Yeah,
So good spot, Dan.
Thanks, Dad. There is also a Gluttonous Ooze available for the Shaman as well, where they can just, if there is a Vine Cleaver, I mean, they don't have it at the moment, but it is in the deck, is what I mean. They can just gobble that one up. As there's a Grumble as well.
And there's an Earthshock as well.
And an Acros Baron as well.
Here we are, Radio Hearthstone.
That could be, oh, that sounds like a great station.
Radio Hearthstone.
Yeah.
Driving to work.
We need a jingle though.
Doodle-doodle-doodle.
Radio Hearthstone.
Yeah.
So, don't try and match my octaves. That's a bad plan.
Wonder.
We can try that another time. We may have already memed a little bit too much for one day.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Stop.
Okay.
Sounds like you're on helium. And now the decision for Muzzy of, am I going to be killing off this Mana Tide? They already put 2 damage into it last turn where they were saying, yep, we have to get rid of this. And now they're thinking, well, are we going to leave it alive? And the answer is yes, because actually, the hand from Fuji is getting quite large. And an oversized hand can be a bad thing for the Shaman. Especially when Hagatha's been played.
Yep. And how many more refills realistically do they have? Obviously, every turn they make 1/1s, but at some point, Fuji is just going to start making actual minions that start to challenge them. Probably next turn, in fact. Some Life Drinkers come to play. He's going to have hand size issues at some point.
Yeah, that's what I mean, the healing rain is going to be important for Fuji as well, because...
There's another Volcano.
just... Sorry, what was that?
Another volcano.
Oh, okay. Leroy Jenkins plus Blessing of Might allows for a big push of damage at some point. But there needs to be some form of swing turn from the United States where they need to stick a board and avoid any AoE clear, but...
How do they even
Exactly.
try and do that with the 3 things they have in hand and not really being relevant to any of that?
And eventually, Fuji is just going to end up with a board here where Muzzy is going to struggle to even clear it, and then Fuji's going to be able to be the aggressor and start pushing the damage towards face.
And that's another thing, actually. Like, they doesn't need to do all the Shudderwocky shenanigans.
I mean, realistically, next turn you can play Grumble when some of this might not be cleared. Although the Fungalmancer off the top does change it considerably.
I think Stottle said it best a few weeks ago when he was saying that as soon as Paladin gets on the defensive rather than the aggressive, it's just done.
Yeah.
It's not quite there yet. It's still managing, or the American team are still managing to just force some attacks out, but Mount Fuji's about to erupt here and just wipe out this board.
Yes, it is indeed. And you can follow up with a Life Drinker as well. And this is what I mean. You've got Grumble available at any point, and then suddenly, as soon as you've drawn Shadowwalk, you can just play it. You've played your Saronite Chain Gang, you've played Life Drinkers, you've played your Grumble. Just go for it against the Paladin.
And United States now found a 7-mana 2/5.
Oh, wow. New card, PogChamp, right stream.
I'm sure this used to be different.
Nah. It's always been like that.
7-mana 2/5. Feels bad, man. Which one of these 3 players is the one with the most vigor for this game right now? They all look like they just... How do we win? Don't know. Frozen's just given up completely. Like, oh, I haven't got any ideas for this. I didn't sign up to this. I signed up to win.
Man, there are these kind of games where your opponent gets every AoE clear that they need, and there's nothing different you could have done.
Perplexing.
There is no way the United States could have piloted this game any differently to try and change the outcome, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. The Legendary t-shirts are good, though.
Yeah, I like that. That's cool. I can confirm, though, that none of those 3 players are currently Legend in this season.
Are you absolutely sure? It's very unlikely.
Yeah, I would eat a hat if any of them have hit Legend in the first.
I like when you didn't say you eat your hat, because you don't, like, suit a hat.
I don't suit a hat?
You would never wear...
You tell me I don't suit a hat, good sir. I like a hat. I'm going to wear a hat tomorrow.
Okay. I'm noting that down.
Well, tomorrow
Dan.
we're not casting.
Hat. Yeah, I can be the arbiter.
And notice how Turkey had the decision that turn, by the way, to play Grumble if they wanted to. But instead they went for card draw to try and get closer to Shadowwalk, because they know the game just finishes as soon as they draw him.
Just dumping stuff out their hand now. We've seen it a million times before when Hagatha and Shadowwalks collide. Just one of the problems is you just cannot get your hand size down. If you draw a Spellstone, things just get worse. But Fuji's board.
It is Fuji's board. Although at the moment it was until the United States finally put some damage on there.
5/5 Corridor Creeper.
And because the fact that Turkey have frozen their own minion,
Yeah.
it means they might have to use an Earthshock if they want to Volcano off this board.
I mean, they could Earthshock and trade it in. Yeah, is that what you mean? To unfreeze it.
Mm-hmm.
It'll become a 3/2. But hey, that's what he's going to do. He's got Lightning Bolt as well now if he wants to take some more damage. Well, he doesn't, but you know. Yeah, he does. They've got Healing Rain, and although there's a little burst available for the United States, it's not enough to be a problem.
This is nice too as well. Grumbling back your Zola to try and, even if the Shadowwalk were to go wrong, which, to be honest, in this matchup wouldn't really matter, you can then just Zola back that Shadowwalk to give yourself another chance.
Yeah, just a load of Shadowwalks is enough, right?
You alright?
Sorry, yeah, just choking a little bit. It's like, just that feeling of where you wear a scuba set and sort of swallow the water by mistake.
Hate it when that happens.
Tyrion looks like the choice, not because it's good, but because the other two are not good at all. Damage is going to come in. They still have the healing rain and an established grumble.
As we get confirmation of a 3-0 victory for the Netherlands against Peru.
Peru, of course, the spoilers last year for Romania. Managed to keep them out of the top 24. I want to say 16 then, but that's not how half of 48 works. Pyromancer's tempting, right?
Well, for Turkey, it's just a matter of surviving for X amount of turns, right? They just need to draw their Shudderwock. It goes terribly wrong if they take an unnecessary risk and potentially leave too much damage up and forget that Leroy is going to come out from Muzzy.
Quite like the Pyromancer into Lightning Bolt into healing range, just in case whether you can wriggle a Zola in there at the same time. Just heal a load of your stuff up, kill everything your opponent has. Seems good.
I must decide.
Yeah, there isn't much you can do wrong with the hand from Fuji, and I felt like that's been the entire game for him, really. When you are presented with the best cards available, and you are such a good player, you are going to have a good time. As another Volcano is now found off Hagatha as well.
And this variation on the theme is actually very tidy because it allows your Grumble to not only live, but you have Zola back. And Fuji's messed it up, and he's lost the game of Hearthstone because he didn't get enough Pyro triggers.
What just happened? This is an absolute disaster for Turkey. We were saying, how does he throw this game away? The United States look just as confused as I do. And they go 2-0 up.
What? He was trying to empty his hand and be too clever about it. I think at one point the healing rain onto the Pyro gives you an extra activation, and he forgot to do that.
I literally just said you were an amazing player, Fuji. I said, how does he mess this up with this hand? I cursed him. It was a verbal curse.
Don't do that again. Did Sottle pay you to do that?
Yeah, what's happened? United States, it should be 1-1. That's a calamity. Can't put it any other way. It's a shame, and commiserations to Turkey.
But Fuji is one of those guys who lives and dies by the bit of cockiness, so he's now going to have to suffer the lol, pretty much, for what happened.
Suffer the lol, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's...
He's got to be able to take it if you're going to give it.
Well, after that one, I need a break, and I'm sure Fuji probably does as well. So we will be right back, and we'll continue the series right after this. Welcome back, everyone, to the Hearthstone Global Games, where we're currently in the middle of a series between the United States and Turkey. And we just saw, in my opinion, probably the biggest misplay of the Hearthstone Global Games thus far, where Fuji just threw the game, really, against the United States. And now they are 2-0 down. And, yeah, it was painful to watch.
That hurt, and we needed a few minutes to gather our thoughts together. Plus, my card's been declined.
Oh, they didn't approve it?
I even mentioned Chaki on it, and they just didn't want it.
Nah, it's a shame. My card gets declined in Poland all the time as well. It is a real shame for Turkey. And do you know what's worse? Fuji has to play the next game as well. So if it wasn't already bad enough that he had to suffer losing in that manner, he now has to try and recompose himself for game number 3, which is going to be Warlock versus Priest.
I don't think he's moved. I think he's just stared at the wall for the last 5 minutes. Meanwhile, interestingly, the USA have kind of composed themselves as well. Because they probably just spent 5 minutes chuckling to themselves.
They did. They all kind of just like smiled at one another, didn't they?
They probably just haven't stopped.
Well, they know that it was a gift. They know that game, well, when they see the opponent's hand, right, that they'll know that they should have definitely lost that game. So.
Yeah, and when it's somebody of Fuji's bluster that does it, it makes it even worse. Right, can he get himself together and draw a lot of happy ghouls in his zoo deck versus this priest? The answer is he can draw one, and it won't take long for him to start looking smug again, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so the priest, of course, can do particularly well against zoo if it does find the Duskbreakers.
Yep.
Very similar to priest against any aggro deck, but if the zoo can have the start that we know it can, if it can find now just any form of healing, Voodoo Doctor would be for a perfect turn 1 for Turkey, as Duskbreaker and a Dragon is also found from the United States. So this is going to be a pretty good start for both sides. Do you keep? I think you keep Happy Ghoul and you toss away the Dreadlord and the Life Drinker.
Probably. One thing with a Life Drinker you can do is set up a board, see if they Dusk Break, and if they don't, then you Life Drinker Ghoul.
Yep.
But that involves a lot. Fuji is actually talking to his teammates. Either he's pretending they haven't all left him. And yeah, he does throw it away. He's just going to look for a quicker start. Some healing would be handy, of course, in this Heal Zoo deck.
And he does find a Light Warden, but unfortunately that isn't a minion that can heal. It's only a minion that benefits from healing. Now, it's interesting keeping the Happy Ghoul, and I bring this up because in Japan, when Hunter Race was knocked out of the competition in the semi-finals at HCT Tokyo, he kept a Happy Ghoul in his hand, and he was punished for it because he didn't find any healing, and in the end he just had to play Happy Ghoul on turn 3, and he did lose that game. And I remember thinking if he had mulliganed a bit more heavily for some 1-drops like Flame Imp, then potentially he could have won. So it is a real risk, and you do hope to find some of those healing minions.
Do have half the equation already set up though with the Librarian
Absolutely.
itself in the face. That's a big deal. And I think if you're going to play Happy Ghoul, it's no good on turn 7. So you don't want it. You want it in your opening hand to take the chance that the deck's set up to do.
Yeah, you want it as an early bit of board pressure, whether it's turn 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Look at this play.
Wow.
Happy Ghoul that.
And the thumbs up from Muzzy, and they all laugh as well.
And they emoted at the same time, Light Shell burn you, just in case Fuji wasn't feeling bad enough about his life right now.
But they do find another Librarian, but still no healing ability. As they're all waiting, and no, they don't have to worry.
He's going to do it again.
He is.
They're laughing already. They're just going to do it again.
There is no other way for them to damage themselves apart from tapping next turn.
And they are 2-0 up. So if they want to mess around, they can have some fun.
Yeah, certainly moods can change when you are in the driving seat, especially after a win like that one as well. That is going to change the spirits.
What even was that? They just healed the 2-1.
Is this just BM now at this point?
I think so. Because they're trying to leave it up so that he can play the Happy Ghoul so they can Dust Breaker it all.
They also know that full well that there would still be the potential to tap or Flame Imp into a potential Voodoo Doctor as well.
And yeah, they don't mind if Happy Ghoul comes down this turn.
Yep. Fuji is just probably going to walk straight into a Duskbreaker here. Oh, Pyromancer available as well.
Pyromancer better? No, because I haven't got enough spells, so Duskbreaker this, get control of the board.
And I'd imagine if Priest can get to turn 8, this game is over.
All this needs is like the US team to all wear like dark glasses and it's some sort of hit squad. The way
they could all be wearing
in this game.
all American clothing, like Amnesiac at the finals.
Yeah, that was impressive.
Both Soulfires disappear. Well, any plan on just burst damage and going for a surprise lethal is literally out the window.
Well, literally out the window.
Literally.
Like, flown out the window.
Literally out of the card window at the top, and it flew into the window, which is down below.
Wow.
Literally. I used it in a proper sense.
Yeah.
Accidentally.
If USA lose this by 2 health, it'd be quite amusing. Yes, what?
I was just looking at you. I was listening to you. So is that a problem?
It depends. It's not a problem for me. It just depends how you interpret what I say. Anyway, back to the realm of the living before the rails completely come off this cast. Or the cast comes off the rails, actually. Can United States just play Pyromancer and go wide here? And actually, can they even win the race? They've got Mind Blast in hand. They've got Shadow Visions in hand to fetch a second one. Can they just go face and play a Pyro and just have some fun?
I mean, I would rather just heal my face up.
Yeah.
Next turn you've got Cabal Shadow Priest to take the Doomsayer. If you, as I said, if you can survive till turn 8, the Drake is probably going to clear off the majority of the board that Turkey can put on anyway.
And they would have been severely punished had they done it the other way, because there's going to be a lot of taunt on the board now. And that would have given them a chance of suffering, although they are in an incredibly strong position.
And it does surprise me that Zoo is being brought to this format. When it is a format where you can be paired up randomly against another deck, you really want to bring the strongest Warlock deck that is available right now. And in my opinion, that is either Even Lock or that is Cube Lock.
What Turkey did, though, is they brought Burn Mage, Odd Paladin, Odd Rogue, Zoo Warlock, Mali Druids. They went for quite an aggressive strategy, which means you can't ban away all their aggro, but you can ban away all the control events against you. So their plan, which doesn't seem to be working, but it might have been working if things had gone differently in Game 2, is to stop the USA being able to get rid of all of the aggro decks. Which is a thing we've seen a few teams try, and honestly, when we've seen it, it hasn't been that successful. This Holy Fire looks incredibly powerful right now.
As a reminder, whilst USA are so far ahead right now, not only in the series but also in this game, this is a do-or-die game. The loser of this series is eliminated from the competition, so potentially Fuji's game-losing play in the previous game could knock out the entirety of Turkey from this tournament.
Yep. Turkey will be disappointed in him, I feel. Look at this, this is just basically the end coming now.
This is going to be it. I don't see a way back into it for Fuji. As we saw earlier, both Soul Fires were discarded, so there's not even going to be a chance for any just crazy lethal abilities with anything. Just a real struggle. It's going to be game over. The USA fight, well, they live to fight another day. They're not eliminated from the competition. And what a disappointment that is for Turkey, because they go out in such an embarrassing fashion, if I have to be honest.
Yeah, Fuji there with the, you know, the salute goes down with the ship, but the ship crashed because of him.
He did. He literally just drove it the wrong way. He drove it into an iceberg.
Yeah.
It felt like it was on purpose.
With his foot on the accelerator. I mean, it wasn't on purpose.
No, it wasn't on purpose.
I don't think ships have accelerators.
It's just... Wait, what? Well, ships have accelerators, surely.
Maybe they do. But yeah,
just accelerate in different ways.
It was pretty grim there from Fuji, and it's a shame to see, but then also he did, in WSG in particular, sort of have that same attitude and get through it all and didn't really calm it down even after he won. So there'll be one or two people out there amused to see that.
And I mean, I'm looking at the other matchups that were available, and even if that Shaman had got the victory, I still think this series probably goes to the United States. As we take a look at the match layout now, it was the Aggro Mage against a Quest Warrior available for Turkey, and we also had the Aggro Mage versus the Odd Rogue for Just Saying. And we saw in the last series between the two teams that the Odd Rogue just had such an easy time against the Aggro Mage.
We shouldn't overshadow too much the first game, though. That was a fantastic worked game from the USA. So we had the best of both worlds in terms of one really good, strategically well-played game of Hearthstone, and one botch.
And I didn't realise in the first game when it was just Terrence as well. I hadn't realised the other three players were in the same room. Terrence, when communicating to the other three, that would have been a lot easier for them to all discuss what to do in that Malygos Druid game, because they would have all been able to converse in one room and then just say to Terrence what their opinion was as a three.
Yep.
He wouldn't have to have listened to Clutter, which would have it could have happened to Fuji. Maybe Fuji was in a situation where there was just so many people giving him different plays that he ended up making the wrong one.
I feel like he maybe originally factored in a healing rain into that play, which would have allowed an extra proc on the Pyromancer, and then just forgot about it, basically.
Maybe he forgot about it, but some people we've not forgotten about is the United States of America, who are on the line, I believe. It's Muzzy and the rest of the boys. Guys, it's a great victory for you. You're still in the tournament. How did you react to that game number 2 when you were pretty much gifted a victory, as I saw some smiles?
Yeah, like at that point, we pretty much thought like game was over. Maybe we get a divine favor and come back. Maybe we play this Baku and it doesn't get dealt with. And then it didn't get dealt with. And then the turn after, it was dealt with on board, but then it didn't get dealt with. So we're like, okay.
How much easier is it having 3 of you in the same room? Obviously, a lot of the time you are spread all over the United States, but today you get a chance to work together?
Well, what do you guys think? For me, it's the same. It's not really any different. I don't think it's very much different.
I felt the same here.
Well, that's good. And that's just a benefit of your communication, clearly, because I've seen teams struggle when they're on online communications. So you guys are all good friends. You know each other, so you know when to kind of shut up. I think that is probably the important factor. Muzzy, you just had a relatively disappointing event in Japan. I was there and I saw you. Do you think this is the kind of lift that you needed coming in with the United States staying in the competition? Because surely it would have been terrible if you had been eliminated out.
For me, I don't know if it's really lifted. It's nice. I mean, it's like 2 a.m. here in Taiwan, and we have our tournament, and like we have to go there in like a couple hours. So it's like we had to wake up as well. But a win's nice, right? We're all smiles.
I'm starting the day off with a win.
Yeah. Let's get some more wins later today too.
Well, I hope that you can get some good rest. I won't let the interview go on too long. I'll let you guys go so you can enjoy Taichung. Best of luck at the event, and best of luck in 2 weeks' time as well with the new expansion coming out.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, man.
Take care. Oh, they're sleepy.
I'm not surprised, but that did say a lot about how good their organisation is, because as you said, some of these teams just can't communicate, and they've obviously got very good organisation for their communication if they're on Skype.
I was very surprised by that answer, to be honest. I would imagine it is just so much easier to communicate in real life, but as I was saying, they are just really good friends, so they know full well how each other communicates. As we take a look back at some of the highlights. This particular game, if you are going to re-watch any games from this series, watch this one. Lorinda was saying how difficult it is to play Malygos Druid, and Terence gave us a masterclass.
He did. And just the timing of everything was absolutely perfect here, or at least it looked it to my old eyes. And it certainly wasn't far off, because he got the job done convincingly. It never really looked like he was going to lose. Just the timing of when to armor up, when to change that into an attack was beautiful. And then game 2 went Turkey's way. Nice and easy, simple victory for the Shudderwock, until hopefully we get to see in a minute what happened.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm aware, he played the Zola, and I don't know whether he thought that Zola was going to trigger the Pyromancer. It was really odd. It was a very strange decision, and that's why I think there must have been someone in his ear trying to convince him to play in a different way.
Just clear after clear after clear, and he had another one in hand. And again, I'm just going to keep going back to it. I think it was the Healing Rain that threw him here. I think he had a plan and then changed his mind. And yeah, he even picks it up there and changes his mind, because this looks more efficient. Then you say it's the Zola, maybe, and doesn't know what he's doing. And then he smashes his head against the wall.
So he played the Zola before playing the Healing Rain for some reason, and then just roped? Did he just rope? Did he run out of time? Because he still has the mana there.
I don't think he roped, but maybe he did. That was a mistake. I missed that at the time. I was too busy smashing my head on the desk.
And you've got to say, I mean, considering that these three players are playing at 2 a.m. They are in a different country. I mean, bear in mind, the Hearthstone Global Games completely plans around time zones to try and give the best times for players to play, but that doesn't accommodate the factor that they could be traveling to different events. They will be delighted with a 3-0. I know in the interview, they were pretty tired, pretty sleepy, probably didn't really want to have an interview at the end of the day, but they are still in the competition, and that is the important factor for the United States.
And every week is going to be do or die, but if one team can keep doing that, United States are a team that can keep doing it. And France are in the mix at 1 and 2. Might have a big knockout next week.
Or maybe we will. Maybe the United States, though, we might see them in the finals. That's certainly where people were expecting them to be from the get-go. Right, that is the third series of the day finished. We still have 2 more coming your way. The next series is going to be Austria versus Mexico. We won't be casting that one. It'll be Falcone and Darok. So enjoy that one. We'll see you in just a few minutes.